Nurses of psych wards, what did a patient do that left you speechless? Psych ward counselor here. Early in my career I had a teenage girl with suicidal ideations and severe depression. The year before, on Thanksgiving, her dad pulled a gun from under the dinner table and blew his brains out in front of everyone. I normally form a response pretty quickly, even a wow, but when she told me I got quiet, leaned back, exhaled, and had to gather my thoughts. I wonder what made him do that. I mean, I vaguely understand feeling suicidal, but making the family watch. Prison guard here, guy cut his scrotum open to let people know he was serious, don't know about what. Guy 2, cut off a butt cheek, or a big part of, and threw it at me as I tried to stop him. Guy 3, punched a wall 3 times really hard, bloody knuckles, and told me he punched the devil cause he was telling him to stab me but I'm cool so he told the devil to fudge off. Guy 4, pretended to drown himself in a toilet, basically splashed pee on his face and rolled around crying. Guy 5, had sex with a window air vent and was compliant yet confused when I asked him to stop. Those were the days. Had a catatonic guy who could play the piano like a pro, classic, jazz, ragtime, but otherwise just sat in his chair and stared. There was a guy like that at the psych unit I was a patient in, too. The contrast between when he was playing the piano and how he acted the rest of the time was incredible. Okay, apparently these guys are in every psych ward because I had one too. Same guy. He just transports his consciousness from body to entertain his fellow residents. Asterisk, spelling, and thanks for silver. Not me, but someone I knew was in a ward with a girl who wanted to be a vampire and drank blood from her own tampons. It's as atrocious as it sounds. She was around 16 and schizophrenic. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Regurgitate. I just did. This was actually in a state hospital that is part of the prison system for mentally ill offenders. Patient asked for Vaseline. Which is fine. They can have Vaseline, whatever. But this patient was given a whole tub, so of course he stripped completely naked, covered himself in Vaseline, and ran. It was a secure unit, and he didn't escape, but we couldn't get him back into his cell all shift because he was too fudging slippery. No more tubs. A nurse told me one of her patients killed himself on the unit while on 1:1 suicide watch. Edit. Patent and staff were at arm's length and patient suddenly charged the wall, smashing his head as hard as he could, breaking his neck in the process. I've cut 2 patients down myself. Yeah, that'll mess you up. Wait, what? Cut down from a noose, where they hanged themselves. Oh, what a relief. Yeah, not really. When I was a student doing a placement in a maximum security unit, a serial rapist was getting meds, made a silly joke, the nurse said oh, stop that. His response was I've heard that before. I'm not a nurse but was a patient once. Giant dude got upset. One dude changed the channel from a football game he was watching and smashed his skull with his fists. Not fully, but enough that when they brought him back a few days later he started seizing and had to be removed again. Didn't see him again. Also, there was one lady who was straight out of the movies. Walking around preaching the end of days loudly and sweating like crazy. I watched a guy try to remove rats from his rectum. Stated that his ex-girlfriend summoned them there. He ended up tearing his rectal walls to shreds. I really don't know how a human can change from normal, having a GF and such to what you described. This guy had multiple issues and ultimately had to be restrained and sedated. He was transferred from prison to state hospital. Had a guy come in with pictures of families pasted on his feet because he wanted to be close to them. That's actually wholesome. Well, that depends on to whom those families belong. After reading all of these stories, I'm imaging the worst case scenarios of everything. Thanks Reddit. Not a nurse, but I used to be a security guard in a hospital, and we had a patient who self-harmed and cut a hole into themselves around their belly button and then stuck a bunch of paper clips and buttons and things like that into it. This reminds me of a sequence in Alfred's Playhouse. That behavior is one of the most severe indicators of abuse imaginable. I wish I didn't Google that. Jesus fudge, what did I just watch? Description for the meat? One of our patients escaped the ward and managed to hitchhike all the way to Sydney, about 900 kilometers. And this is why I don't pick up hitchhikers. In Australia, where you shouldn't pick up anything. Even this adorable koala rolling around all playful like a... Not there. No. My sister was actually sectioned earlier this year for her eating disorder. She shouldn't have been, but that's a story for another time, and she was right next to the PICU, Psychiatric Intensive Care Unit. One of the nights she heard multiple screams coming specifically from that ward. One of the patients had bit a chunk out of a nurse's leg as they were trying to detain them. They then started eating said chunk. It's crazy to think these types of things happen. Edit. Sorry guys, I typed psychiatric instead of pediatric. She was only 15, so it was PICU, I just had a bit of a brain confusion. We had a gero psych floor. Crazy old people. One night while passing through, a little old lady popped her head out her doorway and said to me, "I could sure use the company of a good-looking young man tonight." Sorry, I'm not that good-looking. Quick as snot on a doorknob, she said, "That's okay, I can't see too well." I didn't join her, but her charisma was on point. Sounds like you're the one who missed out in this story. Appropriate username. Pharmacist here. Had a patient getting discharged from the ER when they found out 2 police officers were waiting outside to take them in on an outstanding warrant. Patient grabbed the doctor's coffee mug, smashed it on a desk, and then tried to slit their own throat with the broken mug. Caused lacerations needing stitches, but luckily nothing serious. We're still arresting you. Not me, but a friend is a behavioral consultant for a psyche ward and once told me a story about a patient that casually approached another patient and proceeded to pin him against the wall and bite his eyelid off. Not me, but when my sister was in a psych ward for an eating disorder, a girl tried to strangle someone with a bra. Last year my other sister was in there because she was suicidal and a kid tore a water fountain off the wall. Another kid screamed for his shoes, and personally my favorite was a kid whose mother told him he was going on a vacation but instead admitted him into a psych ward. Then he screamed to one of the staff, "That bitch lied to me." If my mom told me we were going on vacation and then dropped me off at the psychiatric ward, I'd probably say the same thing. I love my mom, but that's some fudged up shiz right there. Rip out their tongue. He was left speechless as well, I presume. Edit. That was the darkest joke I have ever heard. You'll never hear that joke from the person themselves though. We tossed a guy, he took it like a champ. Then pulled out the barbs, handed them back to the officer and told him that wasn't very nice. Had a dude who liked to masturbate, then lick it up off the floor. Another one liked to take a dump, play with it, then go around shaking hands with unsuspecting people. A lady who put sandwiches up her bag. One of my faves though was a guy who one time was walking down the hall, paused, shook his right leg. A turd rolled out onto the floor, then kept walking like nothing happened.